Can you? Oh yeah, I got the music on. Not the music. The sound on. Hey, hey y'all, how you doing? It's me. I don't know why I do that laugh, but it just be funny to me because it's like I'm talking to y'all, but I'm also talking to myself. So it's just funny to me. How are you doing? Hey, Run and Tell, Chica, Wake Up, Miss Fadir. So first off, I want to address as everybody is coming in why it looks like I'm about to teleport. Why it looks like I'm about to vaporize and disappear into another dimension. And hey, Pumpkin Spice. Hey, Chrissy. Why that's happening? I just figured out why that's happening right now when I was playing with the settings and stuff. Why that's happening is because I use Restream and I do pay for Restream, but I pay for like the lowest. Unless I'm wondering if they have upgraded. I'm gonna look. I'm gonna look online here and see if maybe they have upped the packages or whatever. It says my subscription is active. All right. Okay. Yeah. So I think what they're trying to do is to get me. That's what it is. I think that. Hey, Tori. I used to have HD because I'm looking at my previous streams and I'm like, it didn't used to look like this. So that's where I was like confused at because I'm like, it didn't used to look like this. What happened is, you know how they get you, they start switching things around. So basically, the highest um, computer camera quality, streaming quality, I don't get that anymore. So they would want me to bump it up in terms of what I pay. And right now that's not happening. So y'all gonna catch me in the ether. Y'all gonna catch me in the in between. I'm gonna just be looking like this for right now because this is, yeah, like it's crazy. So it is what it is. The thoughts are the thoughts. The words are the words. So hopefully you can just vibe with me on the level that I'm vibing at, on the frequency that I'm vibing at, even if it doesn't include the visuals so clear. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do. And but yes, welcome to everyone coming in. Hey, QB, wake up, channel, pumpkin spice. We're doing roll call. Chrissy's here. Run as hell. Did I get my girl Chica? Yeah. So we are all in here. How are you doing? Come in and get comfy. What is going on? It's hot. It's hot. Yeah, when I had put together the outline for this, and oh, thank you, good, good. When I put the outline together for this, of course, I always typically have delusions of grandeur. Hey, Duffy, welcome. In terms of the production value, I'm going to give you in terms of the looks and stuff like that. But the thermostat said no. It said we're going to just keep it chill. We're going to give this calf hand. Okay. We're going to give this half up, half down. We're going to give this bare face because it is quite hot. It's not as hot. That's why I did it today instead of yesterday too, because yesterday was like the tail end of a heat wave in like the hundreds and stuff up here, or at least feeling like the hundreds, but still the high 90s. And so I was just like, I'm not even going to put it on myself to try to do anything. I was just going to just hold on to the Lord's unchanging hand yesterday. But it's reasonably cooler today. So I said I could muster up the capacity to do my live stream. But how are you guys doing? How have you been this week? Glad to see you here. Glad you could join me. Glad you were willing to join me. It's so exciting. And mind you, the channel is growing. Like the channel is growing Since our last live stream, I've gained, yes, caftans, Afghans and caftans. That's what I will always say. Um, we've gained about 25 to 30 or more people. So welcome to all the new folks. I'm so excited to have you here. I'm like geeked that you even care what I have to say, as well as all the tried and true OGs. I always thank you, always happy to see you. So that's amazing. I think I mentioned before in my last stream that my goal for the summer is that by the end of the summer I could get to 1,000 subs. So that would be interesting. And like I said, I don't think that's going to be hard to do as long as I stay consistent. So that's a me thing. I have to stay consistent, which again shouldn't be too hard. I'm really excited. Speaking of Alicia, hi Alicia. I'm so excited. We're coming up. Do we have a week? We're going to be in DC with Beyonce. I'm so excited. Okay. So that is coming up. What else is going on? I have some content, some conversations I want to have with particular people coming up. So that is in the works. I've also been getting a lot of different stuff, just random stuff that I thought was interesting. So I've been doing outlines for future, like not just this one, but for like future streams that I'm going to have. Also, I have decided, I was talking to like some of my people, some friends of the show, and I've decided that I'm going to go back to my Wednesday time slot. So I guess I would ask you guys if what time of the day would be best to do um, live streams on Wednesdays. And I'm choosing Wednesdays. Yes, dance party with Beyonce. I'm choosing Wednesdays. It could be Wednesdays or it could be Saturdays, but I lean towards choosing Wednesdays only because I am a mother, so I reserve the right to like do fun things on Saturdays and stuff like that. So I wouldn't want to commit to having to be in the house on a Saturday per se. This is me also thinking in terms of, because somebody was like, people were saying they really like the Sunday slot, but the thing about Sundays is that during the school year, my daughter goes to visit with her godmom on the weekends, most weekends. And so typically Sundays is the day when I'm traveling to and fro to pick her back up and have her back home in time to get to school the next day. So that's why I hesitate to commit to Sundays, even though it was really like I enjoyed the energy. I may still find a way to integrate something on Sundays because there was an idea I had last year or maybe the year before that of having like spiritual Sundays or something like that. So my point is that there was always an inclination to kind of do something on Sundays. So I may do that. It might not be a live stream, or I don't know. I'll find a way to fit that in. But in terms of the to get ready with me is a thing. It's not though, because I tried it. For those of y'all who were here when I tried it on TikTok that time, I'm not good at getting ready and talking. I gotta do one or the other. I gotta do one or the other. Because I'm either sitting and talking or I'm doing my makeup like nobody is there. And I have not mastered the art of doing both. So maybe at some point, hi, is it Clee? Kyle? Q? I'm not sure. I'm me. How are you? She said, it doesn't have to be a long thing. It doesn't. It doesn't. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, yeah, I could check in with y'all. Like, it doesn't have to be a long, full blown out stream or whatever. But I am willing. The point is, I'm willing and able to commit to a Wednesday day in terms of what day of the week you can count on me to come and be live. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it might not be a live stream, but I might just do some thoughts I'm thinking or whatever on Sundays. Not immediately, but it's just something I had in my mind, an inclination to do. But Wednesdays now, my question is, would it be better if we did like a 6 o'clock good for everybody, or would it be better? And I might do a poll. So if I do a poll on my community tab, because I don't get a 580 something people. I don't get a lot of interaction when I make community posts, but I may wind up doing a poll. Um, I might could do a poll on the thing before the stream is over if I could figure it out. Um, to figure out what time of the day would be best for everybody. Because again, this is me thinking about what my most of the year, which is the school year, is going to be like. So, would y'all rather during like a lunchtime thing? Would y'all rather like a first thing in the morning type of thing, just get you going in the daytime while you get to work or whatever? I mean, it wouldn't be that early. It wouldn't be no earlier than like 11 in the morning. Um, so anywhere between, I couldn't be doing it at like 3 o'clock. Whatever I would do, if I started it earlier, I would have to be done by like 2:30, 2:45. Or we could just do the evenings, which is fine. So, just yeah, that's why I was saying I could do a poll in the chat at some point. I don't want to try to worry about it right now because I want to get started. Um, so I stay forgetting the community tab because I know, because I'll be putting stuff in the community tab. It'll get, I think the most I ever got was maybe like 14 likes on something. Very rarely get any comments. So, but whatever you want. Yeah, it's so funny because on Themus's channel, we came to the realization that like a lot of people, because I know we have a lot of overlap, so a lot of people, we like, all these women work. So they, if you doing something in the morning, that kind of works because people are getting ready, they're listening on their way to work or whatever, on their commute and stuff. So I don't know, trying to work it out, but I'm trying to find a way, to do this harmoniously so that everything is good and everybody is accommodated, including myself, not set myself up for failure or burnout or anything like that. So yeah, those are our church notes. So I'm going to go ahead and add the I'm gonna go ahead and add the what's this called? The intro. And then we can get started. Where is it? All right. This is a mother.
No problem. You in charge of the girls, right?
I am in charge of the girls.
Are you in charge of the girls?
I am in charge of the girls.
Okay, so what is going on today? As you saw, today's live stream is about safe spaces for Black women. So where that subject matter came from is I've actually been experiencing some stuff lately in some spaces that I've been in. It's always been a thing in my mind. It's always been something that I've been acutely aware of. I've told the story on here many times about how part of the reason that I even made this platform in the first place was because I was in other spaces that I didn't feel were safe for someone that fit all the different categories that would encompass my personal demographic. There were a lot of things about, my circumstances and like I said, categories that people could put me in an objective way that felt like they were being judged, that felt like they were being othered, that felt like I just felt like there was a space, a niche there for people who needed more safety and comfort and accommodation, for certain things. And hi, Lawana, I haven't seen you in so long. And so that was part of the reason, along with the very niche down subject matter, that was part of the reason that I created this space, because I felt like we'd be better served to talk about these subjects and these experiences in a space where there wasn't the need to like have to protect ourselves and armor up, I call it, to uh, protect ourselves against attacks with weaponized accountability. And so also something that I had to like kind of check myself on too is there was this awareness of a feeling of entitlement, um and also some jealousy. I'm going to call it jealousy because it shows up as jealousy, even if it's not meant to be, of other creators. Because to me, and this is just me being honest, it felt like I'm here doing really important work where I'm really trying to have like serious conversations, and people just wanted, like what Andre 3000 said, but y'all just want to dance. You know what I mean? It was feeling like the conversations that were being had um in other platforms within the space were not up to the caliber, the level that I felt like I was bringing, but yet it didn't feel like anybody cared. It didn't feel like anybody wanted to have those conversations in that way. Hi, Purple Pill, welcome. Um, so for me, I interpreted it, and I know that this is true, like from a psychological standpoint, people are human beings are pleasure seeking creatures, and so the nature of how I talk about these things, and what I'm talking about when we're talking about shame, and we're talking about failing as parents, and um being the bad guy, and or being the loser in a situation, and just the insecurities and the shame and all of that. That's not something people want to talk about. You know what I mean? Like, that's not really something uh that I feel like anybody would want to talk about. And so it was hard, it was difficult for me. But what I found in buckling down and being willing to do the work is that I personally had some things that I could work on in terms of consistency. I talk about my consistency, my lack of consistency here. I like to think I'm very accountable in terms of just like, y'all know, I know I'm not consistent as other people are. And so I'm willing to do that. But there are also certain aspects of like how I show up, and and me being intentional, about how I'm showing up, and purposefully being careful about falling into um hubris, and just thinking that simply because I feel like I have something to say, that everybody should just shut up and turn and look at, like the B. Simone thing of how she was talking about, oh, everybody should just get behind the person that is doing the thing. Like, I was acutely fearful of showing up in that way. And so I wasn't really fully showing up authentically, because I was more worried about offending people, or I was too worried about offending people to be diligently delivering the message I believe I'm delivering in the way that it needs to be delivered in order to be heard by the people that are looking for it. And in doing that work and allowing myself to kind of sit, because there was a point, I'm gonna be honest with you, after I did my summit, there was a point where I was just kind of like, maybe this isn't my job. You know what I mean? And I don't mean it in like a negative way, or a spiteful way, or a bitter way. I mean it like there are so many women, people talking about these things, maybe not exactly the way I'm talking about it, but having conversations that I enjoy and that sometimes I get involved in. And I was like, maybe it's not meant for me. Hey, MJ, um, maybe it's not meant for me specifically to be heading the conversation. Maybe I am, again, maybe I was engaging in hubris in thinking that I was the savior or whatever. So it was a time of trying to be humble. I was trying to say humility where I should have been saying humble, but it was a time of humility where I was saying, hey, if it's not for me to do, if it's not actually my job, if I'm just making this up, I'm willing to concede to that. And in being willing to go to that place, that was when I came to the realization of like feeling like I wasn't being grateful because y'all were already here. Like at that point, I already had over 400 subs. And it's just like, who the fuck do I think I am that I could look at a platform with 400 people and be like, oh, that's not enough. Oh, that's not enough people for me to really do my fucking work that I think I'm doing. And so I had to step back. But I had alluded to this within the little quick impromptu live I did about branding, where I recognized, because it literally was just like maybe a month or so between me, stepping back and having those realizations and like starting to make these little changes that you may have seen, like in my branding, in my visual stuff, maybe in my thumbnails, in, the conversations I'm having or whatever, that I started getting pushback and feedback that was the kind that I was fearful of like, oh, you think you're this, you think you're that, or you are trying to be frivolous. So basically, I started getting some of that pushback and some of that energy that I was giving the other more popular um, content creators, which is interesting, right? And so I already had in mind to do a live about safe spaces for Black women, psychologically safe spaces, because ironically, some of those people that had started treating me different, we were having conversations about safe spaces, psychologically safe spaces for Black women online, and like how people will trigger us because they know that gets the engagement, and they'll do things, they'll feed into those baser instincts, like I said, where they're, as I say on here, titillating instead of actually engaging or drawing people in to engage. Purple Pill says, totally understand this thought level. Thank you. I'm glad it resonates with you. Channel says, as a non-content creator and someone new here, this is an interesting perspective. I can relate to some of it in just interpersonal. Yeah, because I treat, first of all, with the channel being so small, stepping all the way back, being near Themis as he has built his channel up has been an invaluable kind of a boot camp for me as a content creator, because even though he'll sit and say, oh, my channel's not that big, it's still way bigger, than my channel. But even that realization of me kind of like scoffing and poo-pooing 400 people, I have to harken back to remembering him saying that when he hit 400 people, that was his goal. And he was just like, I've made it. And so for me, I'm recognizing in the challenges that I've been able to be around him while he's dealing with interpersonal challenges, all those types of things. I recognize that like my fear of, shout out to Concern, my fear of being disliked, my fear of being judged in a particular way, my fear of being seen as someone who thinks they're too good and thinks they know everything or whatever, was holding me back from, like I said, showing up authentically in and embodying the person that I believe myself to be in the work that I believe myself to be doing. And so, like I said, when I made an intentional effort to start showing up in that way, I started receiving that energy that I was always afraid of. And so now, having like grappled with that, I'm like, okay, that's part of the process though. And so now I'm no longer, I was going to say moving in fear, but I wasn't even moving. I'm no longer sitting in stagnation out of fear. I'm embracing that part of the process and recognizing it as such. But in experiencing that rejection of those people who were more comfortable with me when I was as I was before, I'm recognizing, and I just happened upon this live stream that we're going to watch, just a piece of it. We're not going to watch the whole thing. That opened my eyes to bullying, this idea of bullying, and this idea of bullying within women's spaces. Now, mind you, I already did a live where it was the one that has B. Taylor and Princella on the thumbnail, where I talked about like kind of a loose outline of how you can vet spaces you may think you want to be in, and messaging and messengers or whatever. But this particular video on bullying is really interesting because it opened my eyes to just with things that I never conceptualized these behaviors and these experiences as bullying. But that thing that I'm talking about in terms of feeling like I want to go in a certain direction with different things. Because even before I had a platform, this is stuff I experienced in friend groups. And I recognized that I would just back off of my own personal growth and my own personal self-actualization, like the next step that I felt like was there for my self-actualization, because I was scared of losing that friendship. And I was feeling real energetic nastiness and discomfort from other people in reaction to my recalibrations. Let me read some of the comments. Purple Pill says, love this perspective. Glad I joined. I'm glad you're here too. Mind you, purple is my favorite color. So I was always excited when I saw your name. And what does purple pill mean? Like what? Because, everybody has their own kind of pill. What does purple pill mean for you? And you said you've been there. It crippled you a lot. Rage baiting is a very popular thing on TikTok. I think TikTok has mastered it. They were already doing it on YouTube and stuff like that, but TikTok has like really perfected the art of triggering for money. Let's see. Oh, I'm glad. Yeah, there is a level of bullying. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up. Hold on. Don't play yet, sir. I'm trying to set it up to where it needs to go. I'll put it right there. Okay.
So we're going to talk about a couple of other triggers for female bullying. So one of them is very unusual. So one way to trigger a female bully is by you making another friend. So right now you're part of a social circle, right? So you're in the social circle, your bully is in the social circle. One of the things that will trigger your bully is if you start stepping outside of the social circle. If you create a network that excludes her, she is much more likely to trigger a bullying response. Right? So this is kind of the social dynamic. They're super concerned about their place within the social circle and hierarchy. We can also see this. I've seen this in my patients when, mothers have I have a great relationship with my daughter. My daughter and I are besties. And then the daughter starts making friends, starts going on trips, triggers this weird bullying response from mom, where mom's like, yeah, I don't want you to hang out with them. Like, you never spend time with them. They start guilt tripping you. They start complaining to your other family members. Yeah, she's making the wrong friends. They start to use all of these other things around you. They don't tell you, hey, I feel excluded from your life. I feel like I've invested my whole life in you. You're the primary source of my social support. And if you start making friends outside of me, I feel alone. They don't say that, right? They will start to rally allies to try to get you from not hanging out. Oh yeah, this boyfriend isn't right for you. Why? Because he's helping you be independent. Fuck that. So one thing to, and this is what's the reason I share this is because it's so confusing for so many people. Because you're like, I don't understand. I thought we were friends. I don't understand why. It feels like this person is excluding me. They're insulting me all the time. Like they're saying slight things. Oh yeah, like that dress. What do you think about what do I think about this dress? I think the dress would look way better on you if you lost some weight. They say shit like this. It's insane. And you're like, I don't understand. What did I do? Is something wrong? Did I do something to piss you off? Plausible deniability? No, of course. Why? Of course not. Why would you say that? I'm being your friend. And friends are honest with each other. And you look like shit in that dress. I've heard it in my office doing psychotherapy. It's insane. Okay. So be careful what triggers them. One of the triggers is a fear of ostracization, exclusion, making new friends, forming tighter bonds with people in your shared friend group. A couple of other interesting statistics about aggression and female bullying. There's a stereotype that female bullies are attractive. And this is probably true. So when a woman is attractive, they are more likely to engage in bullying. The really interesting thing, what the movies don't tell us, is that if you're an attractive woman, you are also more likely to be bullied. So you're about 35% more likely to be bullied if you are an attractive woman. And once again, remember what's going on here. It's about pack tactics, right? It's if you're the prettiest girl in the group, something that can happen is a couple of other girls in the group can be jealous of you. There's a lot of stuff about mating, which we'll talk about in a second. I hate to say this stuff, but somewhat true, right? Where if you're the pretty person, and this is what's so interesting. So why are you more likely to be victimized if you're a pretty woman? Not just by male aggressors, by female aggressors too. Because that increases the plausible deniability. Oh, pretty women, you have pretty privilege. You get all of the advantages in life. You're so lucky. And by the way, haven't you seen Mean Girls? All the girls who are bullies are hot. You're the bully. I'm not the bully. It's that retaliative humiliation. Hey, why don't y'all invite me to things? We're not doing anything wrong. Maybe you should be a better friend. You think that just because you're attractive, that makes you entitled to come to all of our parties and all of our social events? They're more likely to be victimized and more likely to be bullies. So even if you're an attractive woman who's listening to this and you're thinking to yourself, I don't understand why people treat me this poorly. And here's the other problem, right? Is if you are an attractive person and you have pretty privilege and you go to someone and you say, hey, I'm a victim too. Something bad is happening to me. Do people listen to you? Of course not. And that's why they pick you as a victim. Because remember, their primary fear is fear of retaliation. So if they can get away with it, they're more likely to be aggressive. Another thing that is very commonly a source of bullying is the fear of sexual threat. So if you look at the data, women who are sexually threatening to their friends' partners, like women will look at each other, and I realize this is not all women, this is just literally what some of the studies show, is that one of the things that triggers female bullying is some degree of belief of mating competition, right? This is somewhat primitive, depends on the person. Not all women are like this. I would even say the majority of women are not like this. This video is actually about the minority of women who I believe are aggressive. That's what I've seen in my clinical practice. So if you suddenly lose a lot of weight, if you have a makeover, if you start dressing better and taking care of yourself, if your self-esteem starts to rise, this can make you a target because that's very threatening. I used to be the prettiest girl in the group, and now you are competing. So if this stuff resonates with you,
So I stopped right there because we're going to watch a little more of it, but I stopped right there because when it comes to that's reasons why bullying might get triggered. The conversation we were having about, like I said, me making conscious choices and decisions to be more authentically myself, that also included being more attractive on purpose. So not necessarily just physically attractive in the sense of I want male attention, this and that and the other, but just being more attractive because I'm trying to build visibility within this space. So I need to be more attractive in all ways. I need to make my message more attractive to people. I need to make myself visually more attractive to people. I need to be signifying and drawing people in with the ways that I am presenting myself and offering myself to people. And that is the trigger. I'm recognizing when I saw that video, that was the trigger I recognized in those dynamics with me and those people I have been close to, because prior to that, I had been kind of hiding and closing myself off and, in some ways going out of my way to be what I thought was unassuming and humble and, a quote unquote good person. And so I had to kind of shift my paradigm into recognizing not only the way people were treating me and where that was coming from, but why I was treating, the way to recognize why people were treating me that way was through my own behavior and recognizing why I was treating other people that way, why I was viewing people through that lens, why I was jealous of other people. when it came to particular types of things that I wanted and what that meant about how I was engaging with what I was doing and how I was doing myself a disservice and holding myself back and stagnating myself within my own goals because I felt like, oh, well, it's supposed to look like this. And so now I'm offended by this other person doing something that in a way that I would not be comfortable doing it and having success. I want to go back because QB was saying some really good stuff. The only reason I didn't highlight your comments because I wanted to take time to actually talk to them. QB said, whenever I touch on the fact that women can have worse effects on women because of the expectations of safety, the reaction is exemplary of what I'm talking about. Yes, because the experience I've had more recently in spaces that I thought were safe spaces and thought with people that I thought were friends. I won't say I thought were friends because that's another thing that I'm learning to integrate into my experience is being able to transition out of a certain level of communication, contact, friendship, whatever with people without having to vilify them, even if they are doing that to me. And so for me, it's more of a, like I said, a recognition of I can see, I knew why these people were doing that. And I really, truly wanted to try to have the conversation to unpack that with them and say, hey, I see you're doing this thing and I know you're feeling this way. And let's talk about it, whatever, because I believe if a person is truly your friend, then y'all should be able to have uncomfortable conversations. Whatever. Like you saw how B. Taylor and her friend was having a conversation. Now, hopefully it wouldn't have went like that and it wouldn't have been those types of things being said and those types of unreasonable expectations being had. But still, y'all should be able to have that conversation, those uncomfortable conversations about jealousy, about, fear and all of that type of thing. QB says, because if we provide ourselves with an environment of safety, the dangerous world of men's imagination won't be so alluring. Exactly. I do think that, unfortunately, because, and this is one of the tragedies of not being able to build fortified spaces of safety for Black women, is because it makes it all the more easier when stuff gets hard, when that feeling of stability starts feeling boring, for people to just run back to the titillation of the ups and downs, ebbs and flows of dealing with men. But I truly believe, because it's been my experience, experiencing true peace and being really present, and that's something that we'll talk about in more depth later, helps to alleviate with that too. A big part of the reason I feel like it's so easy for people to get bored with stability is because of that vulnerable median theory that I have, where the people in the middle aren't really grounded in anything. And so when you're not grounded, you're able to be swayed by titillation, by stimulation, something that doesn't ground you and build your intention around the things that you're doing. Channel says, I've not thought about this, but I wonder if this is subconsciously why my friend groups are siloed. There are practical reasons too. For me, this is for men too. Yes, I know that I definitely have experienced, and more recently within the last couple of years, as I've been trying to build this platform, I did kind of like silo my friend groups because, again, of those experiences before where I was aspiring to things that maybe that friend group, even though I love them dearly, and a lot of my aspirations in terms of what I want for my life through the works and stuff that I'm doing included, having them there and them being able to benefit and us being able to enjoy it together. I still would experience, whenever they would have any kind of contact with those aspects that they didn't necessarily, like I said, for whatever reason, vibe with, I would experience that bullying that the guy was talking about, that ostracism. So it wasn't just in my head of just, oh, this is an irrational fear. I was getting real feedback in real time from people that I very much so cared about and allowed to influence me. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. I would hope the people you have around you, you respect them and you welcome their influence. They're people you would want to have influence you. But these are people that for whatever reason, they didn't necessarily vibe with what I was doing, or they were scared for me, and or they were, again, if we dug it, I don't want to put this on them because they didn't say this to me. And so I'm not someone who needs to believe that people are jealous of me. But if I'm being real, if I'm being empathetic to where they were at and where I've been, and me being real about why I was feeling the way I was feeling, it's jealousy. It was a jealousy. It was a thing of like, well, you did something that for whatever reason I perceived as selfish. You did something that for whatever reason. When I tell you, I can't remember the last time I heard the what's it called? Alarms, whatever. But anyway, for me, I could say I was jealous. I was jealous that they were succeeding at something that I was aspiring to. I was only half-heartedly aspiring to because I was unwilling, and I had actually propped myself up as being superior or more moral or more intelligent or whatever to kind of offset the reality that I just wasn't going as hard as they were going. You know what I mean? And this is not to say that, oh, I don't think I'm smart or this or that or the other. It's just for me to say that no matter what it is I think I'm bringing to the table, if I'm not hustling in a certain particular way, if I'm not really putting the work in, it just ain't going to happen. You got to put in the work. And so like that, I realized that I needed to be less focused on, what they were doing and how they were doing it, and to figure out, well, what is the best, keep my ideals, keep my value system, but figure out how can I integrate, more intentional work and movement and effort into my value system. So that doesn't mean I have to talk about things exactly the same way that other person talks about things. That doesn't mean I have to talk to people the same way that I think other people talk to people. But I do need, there was a gap there between the level of work that those people were putting in and the level of work that I was putting in terms of showing up here on YouTube. Because it ain't like I wasn't working. I would show y'all, I was having speaking engagements. I was in school. So I was working, but I was scared of being perceived in the way that I was perceiving those other people in terms of, oh, she thinks she's this, she thinks she's that. She just wants to be seen. She just wants a bunch of followers. And you get what I'm saying? Like, I had to check myself. Let's see. Hi, Bliss. Said, I'm glad he made the clarification too. Yes. Said, offer male validation. Retired people pleasing. Period. It's Yolanda says, but what exactly is the psychology behind why we as women need to see each other as attractive amongst our own spaces? So I feel like it's more so about, it is about a social currency, but I also feel like it's more so about internal desire. I think that, and this is me just speaking on my personal experience, because my mind is the only mind I have full access to, right? And so when I'm totally honest about, begrudging other people how they show up in any sense where I feel like they are more attractive or they are getting more social currency, because it doesn't even just have to be necessarily attraction, physical attraction, just any kind of social currency that they seem to have in abundance more than I do. It's because I want the social currency they have, and I may even want whatever it is I perceive that they have that is getting them that social currency, but I feel like I don't have it. So this is where we get into that level of, unattractive people coming at attractive people. You don't want to be attracted because, oh, I just want to be pretty. You want to be pretty because of what you perceive pretty people getting, right? So this is a perfect example of this, is the way that people have been attacking Cassie and the women that have come out to talk about P. Diddy, because they're saying, oh, well, you were getting benefits from your beauty that you knew you had, and you knew you, because in their mind, oh, if I was as beautiful as you, I could have this and I could have that, but I would do it better. I would be more moral with it. You don't deserve it. So it's a jealousy thing of like, I don't feel as pretty as I perceive you to be. And I feel like you didn't use that privilege right. So it's really just it's jealousy, and then you create this narrative that somehow you would have done better were you in their position, not recognizing that you're basically pedestalizing them. This is people hate it for another, yet one is much proximity. Yep, bingo. It's a hard truth, but true nonetheless. You literally bend over backwards to shrink your light and still catch strays anyway. People love to try to control you. And people love to try to control you. That's the thing too. When you are attractive, that's another reason why I've been saying, like, in the different spaces I've been in, I took a step back to pay attention to how other people are perceiving me, because I think that's another pitfall that people have in a general sense, is we just stick to our ideas about who we are, and we don't pay attention to what other people are perceiving in us. Because a lot of times I've noticed that you're thinking, oh, people think I'm this, people think I'm that, like in a low sense. And people are really walking around with, she is so smart, she is so pretty, and you're walking around with this narrative, I'm stupid and I'm ugly and I'm this and I'm that. So you're not even tapping into the social currency you actually have. You can't even perceive it because you're so caught up in your own mind that you're not really truly engaging with the people around you. So that's another reason why I take time in the spaces I'm in to really receive other people's feedback about who I am, who they perceive me to be, and everything. And I let that feed me, not feed me in like an egotistical sense, but like give me like, okay, that's what I wanted. That's how I want to be seen. So I'm glad that I'm showing up that way. And that lets me know to just keep going. Good. You're with me. She's a look scissor. Internalized misogyny. Yeah. Attractiveness in friendships is competition brought on by patriarchy. QB said, okay, so you did, or maybe you just follow that page or whatever. But yeah, because I had put that up a couple weeks ago for everybody to watch. Okay. We do need to change that narrative. Hold on, I'm trying to catch up with everything. Okay, so we're going to go to the next part of it, because this is what you could do. And this was the part that really made me excited, because he's going to give you some pointers, and like when you're being bullied as a woman within women's social groups, things that you can do to offset that.
Right? The good news is that there are actually a lot of studies that look at how can we protect people from this? What are the interventions that we need to do? A lot of these studies actually come from schools. So how can we prevent female bullying? And we're going to give you all a couple of key things that you can do if you're in this situation. The first is that bullying is much more severe in small groups. For whatever reason, if your friend group is between 1 and 5 people, bullying is much more common. It is less prevalent in groups of people between 5 and 15. So if you kind of think about it, like, I don't know if this kind of makes sense, but in groups of 1 to 5, there's a very like fixed amount of resources. There's a very important kind of tier list, right? Because these are the 5 people involved, and we want to make sure that like I'm at the top and you're at the bottom. But when we get to levels of 15 people, it's really hard to manipulate 15 people. Oh, the 4 of us are going to get together and we're going to go boating on Saturday. And then there's still like 11 of us that are not going, so you can go hang out with those other 11 people. So the tools of the bully don't work nearly as well when we're talking about like numbers greater than 5 up to 15. So one solution that you can do is if you're someone who's a serial victim of bullying, especially if we're talking about the female style of bullying, once again, men can do it too. One of the things to look out for is small groups. And the really scary thing is that if you've been a victim of female bullying and there's social isolation, you are so much more anxious in larger groups. So you end up gravitating towards smaller places that you feel more safe and are actually at a greater risk of being exploited. So larger groups are actually protective. The next thing that's really interesting is that a lot of female bullying propagates based on the bystander effect. Everyone else is going to be kind of like, I'm not going to get involved in this. There's some kind of power struggle going on. I don't want to get hurt. So one of the things that you can do to stop female bullying, if you see it, is stand with the victim. You don't have to, and this is really important, you don't want to accuse the bully because then that'll trigger the retaliatory humiliation. All you want to do is signal to the bully that this ostracization is not working, right? So this is where like it's subtle, but I remember like working with some of my patients and what we would do is we kind of like talk about it, right? So instead of saying like, oh, like we're excluding this person, you're excluding this person, that's not good, you're bullying them, you can't say that because they'll say, oh, I just forgot about it. Plausible deniability. Instead, what you want to say is something like this. Hey, I just noticed that we're not inviting this person. I know we were thinking about this, but I was just thinking like, how would y'all feel if you got left out? That's not really cool. Maybe we should invite her anyway. So you're not accusing anyone. This is really important. You have to let them get away with it. And you want to stand with the person who's bullying. You want to advocate for them. This is the other really interesting thing. We move on to number 3, which is kind of baked in there, which is a no blame intervention is very effective. So when you kind of point out the bullying behavior, you actually don't want to blame the bully. This is actually step 2 of their debate combo, right? Where you blame them. You don't blame them at all. A no blame intervention, which what that means is like sort of focusing a little bit on feelings. Like, oh, like this is unfortunate. No one's to blame here. And it's bad. This person is being excluded. Let's be kind to this person. Let's advocate for this person. Let's include this person. You don't blame them. That'll trigger the defensive response. Our goal is to raise awareness. Right? Because remember that female bullying happens in the shadows. It happens subtly. It happens in private conversations. It's eye rolling and things like that. So all we really need to do, not all, but one of the most effective things that we can do is make sure it doesn't happen in the shadows. Just, oh, by the way, hey, did y'all notice this is happening? I'm not blaming anyone in particular. So what we're trying to shoot for is I see you. If you are the person who is the victim in this situation, you don't want to call them out on it. What you want to signal to them is I see you. This is not happening in the gray zone. I'm not oblivious to what is happening. So you don't want to say, hey, you're excluding me from all of these parties. Instead, what you want to say is, hey, if y'all don't want me to come, you have a group text or whatever. Hey, I heard y'all are getting together at so-and-so's house. If y'all are like interested in talking about particular private stuff, like I totally get it, right? If y'all don't want me to come, totally fine. I know that so-and-so is going through a tough time. If she doesn't want me there, I totally get it. I hope to catch up with y'all later. Raise awareness of it. And then if you say, hey, you guys don't need to invite me, but I'm left out. By the way, hey, I'm left out. So what that does is recruits all of the other people. The way to stop a female bully is not by stopping the female bully. It's actually to recruit everyone else. It is an indirect form of combat. And then what happens is those people start to think, well, I don't want to be left in this situation, right? We should include other people. And by the way, this person seems pretty decent if they're pointing out these dynamics because everyone on some level knows what's going on. And if they want to gravitate towards a healthy community, they will actually end up supporting you much more likely, much more effective than calling the person out and triggering the retaliatory humiliation. Another really important thing to do is to avoid emotional overreaction. So anytime you emotionally overreact, remember everything is happening in the shadows and happening in the gray zone. So if you get very, very emotional, you're like, you did this and I can't believe that you're not a good friend. Ooh, wow. This girl, oh yeah, I'm so sorry we didn't include you. Can you believe her? She's crazy. So emotional overreaction only plays into the female bully's hands. So instead what you want to do is be aware and witty. Be like, oh yeah, this is the 3rd time you guys are forgetting to invite me. Look, I don't know what's going on here, but like, if you guys are enjoying doing this, I'd love to join y'all. But at the same time, like if you guys don't want me there, that's totally fine. Just let me know. Like I'm just confused more than anything else. Data suggests that snappy and humorous comments can go a long way. That's highly like situation specific. The last thing to consider is that the goal of a lot of female bullying is social isolation. The best way to protect yourself is not to fight the bully, but to be impervious to their attacks. So one of the best antidotes to being bullied is to actually develop social skills and learn how to make friends. So what happens is the bully is more likely to be aggressive if they know that their actions are going to isolate you. That's the goal. They push you to the edge of the social circle and then they cut you off. But if pushing you to the edge of the social circle doesn't work because you're able to form bonds or even form bonds with other people, and then you can play their game too. Oh yeah, I noticed like you guys had 3 parties and y'all didn't invite me. I totally get it. It's so interesting. At first I was upset about that. And then I realized like, I'm not sure if this is intentional or it's callous. I don't know if this particular person really wants this to happen. Sometimes I get some aggression from her. But what I really found, like, I'm hanging out with this new group of people. They're so chill. They're very inclusive. They're very kind. And if you ever kind of feel excluded, by the way, like, you can come and join us. That's like a headshot to the female bully. You go to this other person, you say, hey, I have this other group of friends. That's better. Because if the female bully is bullying you, they're going to bully other people too. The last thing that you can do that sometimes is quite effective is share feelings that other people, including the bully, can resonate with. So this isn't blaming them. This is really important to understand. But when you share with a bully in a non-emotional way, what effect this is having on you, sometimes the bullies will actually stop. There are studies at schools that show that this can be helpful, right? Hey, when you forget to invite me, I still feel isolated and alone. I feel like I don't have friends that care about me. Because oftentimes female bullies are not sociopaths, right? They actually do care about other people. A lot of this stuff is kind of subconscious. And then you do something really interesting. You give them the opportunity to extend the hand of friendship. And then they can feel good about including you. So it's kind of weird, but something about sharing your experience in a way that can trigger empathic concern can be effective at disarming a bully. Now, we're giving y'all a lot of these options because not all of this stuff will necessarily work, right? So that's why we have to think about all these different options. So do I want to strengthen my social skills? Do I want to share my experience of this? Do I want to be witty? Do I want to form bonds with other people? And make sure you don't fall into the missteps, blaming the bully for what they're doing, because it's all gray. So if you blame them, then you've fallen into their trap. Female bullying is absolutely a real problem. It's a problem that I don't think we talk about enough. I think since we don't talk about it enough, it's actually getting worse, because female bullying
Okay, so it's going into the conclusion. We don't necessarily need to watch all of that. I want to get into these comments. Purple Pill says, we have to do so much self-affirmation because it's unlikely to get it in this world, especially as a Black woman. Absolutely. Channel says she just had a similar interaction in a friend group. I just said, don't leave X out. That's effed up. And that resolved it. I think it's because we all actually like each other, though. This is the thing. I don't think it's a thing of like people not liking each other. We're drawn to each other. And there's not a friend I've ever had that I'm just like, oh, that was a disgusting person that I don't understand why I was their friend. Every friend that I've ever had, I really truly like them as people and appreciate them and have a gratitude for, like, I know exactly what I feel like they brought into my life, and I am forever grateful with them. Which is why whenever there is like some kind of conflict, I prefer to try to resolve it because I want to continue on with that person. Either be welcome, by the way, says, I didn't really realize this was such a problem amongst women. I didn't either until I saw that thing, because I didn't conceptualize those things as bullying. And I didn't conceptualize, typically you're like, oh, that's my friend or whatever. You may be like, oh, something's wrong. I don't know what's wrong with them. But to sit and think about it in terms of like, oh, this person is actively hating on me. I've mentioned before, like, I have never enjoyed, and I think this is one of the reasons why I didn't resonate with those other creators that I was talking about, because when people talk about haters, that triggers something in me to go, oh, you just think you're so freaking important. You know what I mean? And I thought of myself as someone who was too nice and too kind and too well-meaning to not have haters, but to like feed into the idea of haters, because I'm not, a child. I know that in the world there are going to be people who don't like you, and in the world there are going to be people that are going to hate on you. But it was the idea of like, oh, I got so many haters, like the bad B music type stuff, which I enjoy. Everybody enjoys good bad B music, but I feel like there's a difference between like indulging in that energy and like living your life living for the drama. You get what I'm saying? So for me, I'm like, oh, those people just live for the drama. They just want to believe that they're just living rent free in everybody's mind and whatever. But like I said, stepping into intentional authenticity within my own life experience and experiencing that, I'm like, okay, that's what that is. And while I still am not going to choose to like feed into it or let it feed me, it is something that is real. It is something that happens that as a side effect of being authentic, of being successful. Case in point, Beyonce. Everything comes back to Beyonce, right? Also, this is surreal to me because I was in the beginning of Beyonce's career. I was one of them people like, who does she think she is? She's being forced upon me. She's not that great. But I have really, as we have both grown up, I have grown to appreciate and notice her work ethic and the level of excellence she brings to the things she does and authenticity within herself. And so my appreciation of that in her, in how she shows up in the world, and I'm not saying she's above critique, but I truly appreciate and I see how that vexes people to the degree that it does with her. Like the hate of her is so extreme and unfounded in a lot of ways. There are valid critiques of her that happen, but I'm talking about the hate she experiences to the point of people like making up absurd stories about her and what she does with her time. And Hold on. I heard something in the house. Hold on, y'all. Okay, I'm back. I heard something. I was like, what is going on? Okay, hold on. I knocked the computer over a little bit too. Okay, what was I saying? Let me try to figure out. Listen, listen. We'll get to that. I don't remember what I was saying, but look at this. I'm the one who has something else to do and ends up having more fun and making other friends. Yes. So being that I'm such a personable person, I always tend to collect friends and stuff wherever I go, and it's to a point where like I'm able to be comfortable and stuff. So, but I do have friends that are like my friends that I feel like are like family. And like I said, I've experienced this with them when I have tried to aspire to be more, to self actualize in ways that specifically around the idea of like, I don't think we realize how much we are influenced by the stereotyping of certain categories, that when we find ourselves in those categories, for instance, like a single mother, it automatically kicks in. Those landmines go off and go, okay, you're a single mother now, so you don't deserve this. You're a single mother now, so nobody's going to want you in this way. You're a single mother now, so it's going to be harder. And these are things we just automatically believe, so that when we see other people who fall within that same category of single mother, but they're having a better time of it, and we're going to watch some videos that talk about that, that we get triggered because in our mind we think, oh, it's supposed to be hard, and so therefore it is hard for us, and we're showing up in the belief and in the actions that it is hard, and it's making it hard, and hard, that when we see somebody else doing it a different way, instead of going, how are they doing that, can I learn how to do that, it's possible, we just automatically go, no, it's hard, and they're actually the one that's wrong, or they're actually the one that's deficient because it's supposed to be hard. So they're cheating. That's the same thing with like Cassie and them. They tried to cheat. It's supposed to be hard, and they tried to take a shortcut. They deserve what happened to them. They deserve something bad. And if it's something that's going on that's not necessarily bad, but again, we have a judgment about, that's where you see people hating on their downfall or planning on their downfall, that evil eye, that monitoring spirit. We talk about these things in terms of, oh, watch out, it could happen to you, but we don't talk about how we can become those things. Said listening to him go on, I'm asking also how many people are dealing with friendship groups like this. I think we all experience it from time to time. Said this happened in high school and nursing is very. Heard. I've heard. Okay, so all right, so wanting to go back to more of the structure of the outline here. This video is about how I hold myself accountable to my standard of remaining a safe place for Black women and single mothers here. And these are the challenges that I face in trying to reconcile that standard with the data I receive through social media. And we're talking about how to recognize subtle attacks. Because again, watching that video, having it explained in that way, we all can say, oh, I went through it, didn't know what it was, wrote it off. You know what I mean? You go on about your business. But then, like I said, when you take that step back and pay attention and see the patterns, that's when you can realize it can help you moving forward. When you're because it happens during points in time when you are trying to grow in some kind of way, when you are trying to expand, when you are trying to evolve, when you are trying to change. And that is when you will feel these things. And because it is a part of that process. Because whoever you have around you at that time, whoever you were vibrating with on that level, as soon as you start trying to change your frequency, either they're going to adapt to it because maybe they had that same potential within them and that same desire within them, or they may go, because usually what it is a fear of, oh, you're going to leave me. It's a fear of rejection. It's a fear of you're going to leave me behind, right? I think that's important to think about when we're talking about these platforms as well, because the nature of social media and success on social media is not just getting, but retaining people's attention. So that's something to think about too. If you're in spaces that are supposed to be helping you grow, but it's not really equipping you, it's kind of the energy feels stagnant and it's just the same thing all the time. Again, that's something that in just being a content watcher that I noticed. I was just like, and it's not just about watching content. Even when I was in the hair industry or the beauty industry, I remember growing up as I was coming up in the ranks and getting my education and working different places and stuff. One of the things that stood out to me is like I at one point had aspired to having my own salon, but the salon that I worked at, one of the most successful salons I had worked at, I felt like there was this atmosphere of like kind of a slave master mentality, because it felt like they wanted us to they wanted to keep us there. Oh, I'm sorry. Y'all still no, okay. I felt like they wanted to keep us there for their benefit. So they didn't really want to like teach us in order to grow. They wanted to be Simone. They basically like, oh well, I don't want you to grow unless I can capitalize off of it. And so I just was like, I want to be the place people can come to, that once they come and work with me, that they will tell other people to come and work with me because it's going to benefit them. So I'm okay with people, getting something of value from me and moving on because I have my establishment. But as long as I have a good reputation of being a good employer and a mentor and stuff like that, I should never have to worry about people wanting to work for me. Whereas in a lot of ways, even in the music industry, you see it's more so about exploiting. How can I position myself to exploit these people, exploit their creativity, exploit their artistry, exploit their talent? And so I've always had a mindset of like, I want to give something of value and I don't need to try to hold people, ensnare people, enslave people, manipulate people. That's not something that I want to do. And that's the way I feel with this platform. Whereas with other platforms, even though, like I said, all those other things aside about the growing and stuff, like I said, with Beyonce, there can be valid critique. There can be valid critique of successful people. So in a lot of those other places, I feel like even if it's not on purpose, there is this dynamic of stagnation. And I don't think they're aware of it, but it's like you really can't get no value from this person unless you're angry. You can't get no value from this person unless you are manipulative. You can't get no value from this message unless you're more focused on the person you hate. If I'm not actively hating men, there's no value here. If I'm not actively hating men, what value, what am I actually getting out of being here? And so it's one of those things where it's like that stuff that is where frustration comes in at, and that is where I have to hold myself accountable to being a safe space, because I get frustrated as a someone who considers myself. Bye, Purple Pill. Oh, I didn't see you going for the night. Thank you so much for being there. Please catch the replay because we're gonna be getting into it. Yeah, it can be cultish, and that's where my work comes in, and my challenge is, because sometimes when I'm watching this stuff, and that's why you see, like, I wasn't giving you regular content. I was seeing the stuff that was going on. I'd be online, but I didn't want to start talking, because if I would have started talking as soon as I got the information, as soon as I saw what was going on, I would have sounded a lot like them. I would have sounded a lot like them, because I would have, hey, Coco, because honestly, a lot of the stuff I see frustrates me. A lot of the stuff I see, I'm like, girl, get up, stand up. That's my initial reaction. But that's not what level up single mom is. That might be how Vitamin feels. That might be how Kiana feels. But that's not what level up single mom is supposed to be. And so my responsibility is, if I'm doing what I think it is that I'm doing here, my responsibility is, how can I be kind? How can I maintain the dignity of the subject that I'm talking about, the person, the people that I'm talking about? And how can I make sure that I'm actually bringing value that is not centered in ego and spite and hating and that stagnant energy that, if you were to get out of that headspace, you would no longer find value here. She said it's giving 2020. It's giving 2020 BWE spaces, please. Chrissy with these eyes. Come on, Chrissy with these eyes. It says, I do have some friends who can relate about just one or two things. I see how that could be frustrating. Yeah. And it's like, because you want, at the end of the day, the heart of it is that you want better for that person. You don't want that person to be suffering in the way they appear to be suffering. And you want them to be happy and safe and thriving. And you recognize that these choices that they're making are the root of why they're experiencing what they're experiencing. So there is frustration there. But I don't want to be a bully, because a lot of those spaces that I was talking about, it feels like bullying, and it is. That whole, oh, you can't sit with us, couldn't be me. You're just a black, throwing out, you're just a black male worshiper. Shutting people down when they're giving valid critiques, when they're having valid, conflict with what the person says they're about and what they're showing and demonstrating. It says, and that's why I struggle with speaking on the topics that are trending, because like I don't always trust myself to be giving the message, at least not right away. I have to take time to actually formulate. Maybe I feel how I feel about it, but what does the level up single mom value system paradigm, what would that look like? And I have to take the time to find that. So I want to be clear, like Level Up Single Mom is not just me, and Level Up Single Mom is not just for me. I treat it as something that is for all of us. So I want to share this thing. Hold on. Hold on. It's too much stuff. Is this all the way up? Is this all the way up? These be
and 3 days pregnant, and my child's father, all within a day of finding out that I was pregnant, that I may have an ectopic pregnancy, going to the emergency rooms, spending hours and hours to find out that my baby's okay, and that out. The father of my child said he doesn't want this. He doesn't think this is a good idea, and he wants me to not keep the baby. Let me be very clear that my child's father was very aware of what was going on. This wasn't like nobody was trapped, he repeated over and over and over again how bad.
Could y'all see that? Could you hear that? Let me know. Because it said it had disconnected and then it's reconnecting. Paying attention to. Can y'all hear me? Let me see. Can y'all? I'm looking at. Okay. It said it broke. Did you see the video? You heard what she was saying through the buffering? No, I'm not using StreamYard. I'm using Restream. I talked about this in the beginning of the live stream. So what I think is happening is hold on. Child, this thing is so raggedy. Let me explain. I might just do it like this for the rest of the thing because I don't got time. Okay, good. Y'all saw the video, y'all heard the video. Let me explain for the people that's just coming in right now. What is happening with StreamYard is that I pay for StreamYard. I have for a while now, but I think they've restructured the packages so that now like the level of is it called GPB or whatever it is, the streaming quality has diminished at the level that I am paying for. And so now you're seeing, because like I was using the background before and it looked fine and this and that and the other, but now the last couple of times that I've used it, she said the green ain't terrible. The last couple of times that I've used it, I look like I'm about to teleport to somewhere else. So it's just like I think that they kind of pulled the rug from under me, and so now they want me to pay more money that I'm not paying. So I'm just going to go, I'm just going to do this for right now. The video, I'm going to summarize the video. The video was that, okay, good. Y'all can hear me. So we'll just do it like that. Y'all already saw me for the night. It's fine. The video was a TikTok of a woman that her friend was telling her a story, one of these stories that we hear so often now, where the woman's like, oh yeah, I was messing with this guy and he said he didn't really want me, and I told him I was pregnant, he told me he didn't really want the baby, and I'm only like some weeks pregnant. So basically the implication is that she's at Themis, you are an hour and 20 minutes late. That she's at a number of weeks where she could go ahead and get that handle, but she's not. And the friend is trying to be, I'm gonna go ahead and replay. I'm gonna go ahead and replay it. Hold on. The friend is trying to be understanding and not judging. I'm saying like this is how I be feeling.
I'm 6 weeks and 3 days pregnant, and my child's father, all within a day of finding out that I was pregnant, that I may have an ectopic pregnancy, going to the emergency rooms, spending hours and hours and hours getting poked and prodded to find out that my baby's okay and in my uterus where they should be, and my hormone levels are where they should be. So within a day of finding all that out, the father of my child said he doesn't want this. He doesn't think this is a good idea, and he wants me to not keep the baby. Let me be very clear that my child's father was very aware of what was going on. This wasn't like nobody was trapped. He repeated over and over and over again how bad.
So that's that's what I was saying. That's the experience for me of doing the work here. You know, it's like I don't, you know, I want to be supportive and I want to be a friend and I want to do what will bring the most benefit, because I don't necessarily need to be feeling like, oh yeah, well I'm smarter than you and it could never be me, and because we've had those conversations before where it's like, okay, what use is that in a situation where somebody that I claim to care about is coming to me for support? Like, yeah, we can. It's just no. I'm using Restream. I'm using Restream, which has up until like within the last couple of weeks has been excellent. But like I said, I feel like they did some restructuring where now they're just trying to get more money out of me, and so they've changed what I get at the price point I'm at. She said, "Some for us be making choices." Look, that's what I'm saying, and it's like I want to be supportive of you, but I also don't. The thing that bothers me though is that people. She said, "All topic. I love that pink kitchen." I'm not sure. Um, the problem though is like when people will sit and say, "Oh, I'm not trying to enable it." People get caught up and they'll say, oh, well, you need to hold people accountable or they're going to keep trying to do it. But then, like I said, I'm the person that'll come and ask that person, okay, and how is that actually affecting you? And how is that taking away your choices? Because people talk about other people's choices in a way where they are opting to be offended from a place of superiority and a place of authority that they was never theirs. You get what I'm saying? So it's not even a fine line. Like it's a clear disconnect between wanting to have a real conversation that a person can benefit from and you know, like being a mirror for them, and like hoping that you can bring clarity to confusion, and help them to make better choices. There's a difference between doing that and the stuff that people be doing when they call themselves giving quote unquote tough love and accountability, when in reality you really don't care about these people. And if you weren't able to judge these people in the way you're judging people, and position yourself in the way that you're positioning yourself in proximity to them, i.e., putting yourself above them, there would be no value in it for you, because it's really about your ego. When everything is said and done, it's not about the person. It's not really about helping the person. It's not about helping those people. It's about you serving your ego and affirming that you are better than them, i.e., everything that B Simone was saying. I should have put her on the thumbnail. I may change it. I don't know. Devil's advocate. When do we draw the line with supporting friends' stupid choices? Like, how do we find the balance? So here's the thing. We have talked about this before on Themis' channel. We've talked about this before in different spaces. I'm a big proponent of taking a step back if and when you feel like you don't have the capacity to support someone. And also want to make it clear that when I'm talking about supporting someone, I'm not talking about being a doormat or an ATM, or just someone for them to use non-discriminately. But I'm talking about doing that kind of work that most people don't want to do, and being accountable for their own selves and their own boundaries, and figuring out what those are, so that when those are being breached, you can step back without guilt. Because a lot of the time, I think that people feel guilty about establishing and or maintaining boundaries, and so that comes out as aggression, passive aggression, judgment, and other negative things, instead of addressing what it actually is, which is poor boundaries on your own part. So it's easier for you to say, oh well, because I'm the one that has the money to give, I've got myself together and you need to get it together. But the reality is, yeah, you may have the most money of the two of you, but you don't have clear enough boundaries, and you're scared to tell that person straight up no and be the bad guy. You get what I'm saying? So you'll give them the money, but you get it back in other ways. You're going to get your lick back in other ways. So you're going to hold it over their head. You're going to bring it up at times where it doesn't really count or matter. You're going to embarrass them in other ways. You get what I'm saying? So you're not really who you think you are. You're not showing up as who you think you are, because you're not honoring what your soul is saying in terms of, I need better boundaries. I need them not to be depleting me in this way. I feel a type of way about this. Summer says, I'm guilty of that. I don't like seeing stupidity in action. I don't think anyone likes to see it, but it's like, for me, I'll give you an example. If I have a friend, like I said, who's dealing with somebody that I feel like is taking advantage of them and is treating them bad and this and that and the other, I will say, I'll be the one to say, why are you doing this? Why are you allowing him to do this? He's using you, right? This is what I see. But I will offer it in like, okay, this is what I see. This is what it looks like. This is how it plays out. I don't think it's going to change. Are you okay with it never change? Like, I will have those kind of conversations. But if I'm going to sit around and be like, you're a dummy, you're stupid, you're this and you're that, that's disrespectful. Why do I get to disrespect this person because I feel like I am more evolved than them in this particular way, in terms of not letting somebody quote unquote take advantage of me? And let's be real, most of the time when people are doing all that preaching and this and that, and it could never be me, it is you, but in a different way. And sometimes it's not a different way. There'll be people that are in horrible relationships, but they think they are the freaking guru of life because they told themselves so. You know what I mean? And they'll use any little teeny thing that they think they have over somebody. So maybe, they've been in a relationship longer than you, but the relationship has been crap the whole time. The person hates them. The person tells them every chance they get that they don't like them. They're going to disrespect them, this and that and the other. But they feel like because they've been with this person for 20 years, they got it over you. Meanwhile, you're completely being loved and cherished and this and that and the other, but you only been with that person for a year or so. You know what I'm like? It's stuff like that. That's that competitiveness. That's that bullying. because you're doing something in a way that's different. Because you're doing something in a way that's different than what the heck is going on? Now it done took my background away. Because you're doing something in a way that's different than the way they have done things. Let me see something. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. What was showing before anyway? I'll have to check it out later. But yeah, hold on. Let me see something. Okay, that'll work. That's fine. I just don't like it being black. You know? What about this? Yeah, I don't like it being black. All right. What else? So I take the level of visibility and influence of me getting up on my little soapbox and speaking in this way. I take it really seriously. So I feel like that demands me to find the most harmonious delivery, the the way that I can deliver the message. So first I have to find a message in it. Like if I'm not just going to sit around and gossip about people just to say, well, look, girl, what happened? I'm going to try and find a nugget of wisdom to impart by talking about the thing. So that's number one. Number two is I have to be able to talk about it in a way that leaves the subject, so that the person or people or whatever, dignity and respect. I have to show them respect. I do not, like I said, find value in positioning myself to be like, oh, well, I'm better than them because da 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 da, and that's why you need to talk to me. No, that's not why you need to follow me, is because I'm better. The reason I believe that you will get value out of following me is because I have wisdom to share and I'm happy to share it with you, but you are 100% the judge of that. And I'm never going to try to, I feel like my message is substantial enough that I don't have to make the fact that I'm better than this person or that person a or the selling point. So there's that. Um, but I will say the frustration for me is that while conceptual conversations are necessary, um, it seems as if the trends of the attention economy on social media respond more to ego driven content. Um, and especially when talking about single motherhood in Black spaces, especially, you either have to appeal to people's pity as a single mother online or their ire. So you have to, make them hate you. And I'm talking about like single mother content. When I go and search up single mother content, these are the kind of things that I see. So I'll see people appealing to pity by, oh yeah, I'm a struggling single mother. And one day I'm gonna be okay, and it's so hard, and I never knew, and this and that and the other, and that's literally all it is. You know what I mean? I mean, it may be some quote unquote inspirational stuff, but it's basically woe is me, Tyler Perry esque type stuff. I knew that that's not what I want it to be. Again, this is not me trying to say you shouldn't like it. This is not me trying to say they shouldn't exist. This is just me saying, like, I'm giving you insight onto what it is specifically that I'm trying to do here and why I'm not doing that kind of content, because that's these types of content, single mother content I'm talking about, are the types of content that seem to get the most attention easily. And these are niches that I know I could, if I would have got into, I would be way farther along than I am right now in terms of talking specifically to and about single mothers. So I didn't want to go for that pity. I didn't want to go for, rage bait. That's the women that's like, I got 7 kids by 5 baby fathers and I get $5,000 in food stamps, and what you gonna do about it? I take care of my kids and like, I didn't want to do that. I don't do that anyway, but I didn't want to do that. Or there's also a niche where it's people's representatives. So it's that level up. Oh, I'm better than you. I'm Miss, what they call her, Miss Good Puss or whatever. I'm her. And so that's why you need to listen to me, because I'm better than the rest of you hoes and this and that and the other. So those are avenues that I've seen in spaces that is talking about single motherhood and Black women empowerment, and I didn't want to, but specifically single motherhood. And I knew I needed something other than that, right? For a couple different reasons. One being that those are the things that people will look at and say, oh, that's why single mothers don't deserve A, B, C, D to Z. And also, like I said, if I'm just triggering you, I'm not really bringing any value. I'm just like manipulating you. Um, and I don't feel comfortable. Like I aspire to be better, but I want to be seen. Like I want to be seen. I want to be loved, and I want to be accepted for who I actually am. Yes, Miss Good Puss. I want to be accepted for who I actually am. And because I want to actually enjoy, I feel like that isolates you when you put yourself in that position of playing that role. You see it so many times where people box themselves into these personas, and then when they it wears them like what's that girl name? Cooker Bakaya. You know, she boxed herself into this kind of persona because she was just paying attention to what it was getting her in the moment and not really thinking about the long-term consequences. And now she's feeling isolated, but that's what you were triggering people. So why are you looking for community amongst the people that you were triggering? They didn't come to you because they liked you. They came to you because you were triggering them or people that they don't like. So, I made conscious decisions not to do that. It says, yeah, people wanting or even requiring you to be an archetype rather than a person is know the T. That's a quick way to find yourself never hearing from me again. It said everyone calls asking if it was because of them. Yeah, it was a little bit of all of y'all. Struggle porn. That's what they want to see from women that look like this. Yeah. Let me see. Okay. Um, it's I've said this before. It doesn't seem to be sexy to people to talk about feelings because I'm here talking about, oh, how are you actually feeling? What are you actually saying? What's the paradigm that you're using, and how can we adjust it? That's is boo throwing tomatoes. Nobody wants social media is not set up for that in that way. And if you want to build um, a platform, you kind of have to. I think it's been my experience. Oh Lord, you kind of have to. It takes time. It takes time to build up that trust. The level of trust that I'm trying to build with you is because I really want you to trust, and I want to be worthy of your trust. So this has been a slow burn for me, but thank God I'm in a place where I can see how far I've come, and I appreciate everybody that gives me their time, and I see you guys responding to that intentionality and that recognition of you in the way that I had, the awareness I came to within the last couple months. So I really, really appreciate that. There's no sacrificial lamb here in the form of a man, other women, or the people I talk about themselves. I'm not offering someone up for slaughter in the same way like they used to do with the Colosseum, in ancient history. I'm not offering someone up for you guys to boo and laugh, what they call bread and circuses. That's not what I'm doing here. The cost of admission here is personal development. The cost of admission here is self-awareness. And not everybody is willing to pay that. Not everybody, not everybody is willing to do that. But I have to say, like, the way I'm showing up, that's not how I always was. I'm not in my friendships and not as a mother. There was a point in time where I utilized tough love to stay disciplined, uh, but I recognized that that was not a state I needed to stay in indefinitely. So that goes back to me talking about, platforms where that is the dynamic. There is you have to stay in a cycle of negativity of some kind. Like I said, it's either negativity towards yourself, negativity towards other people. That's the only way that you can feel comfortable in that space is if you're engaging in that way. And so that's not what I want to be, but I wanted to have an example of that, what that looks like. Hold on, she loud. Wait, girl. Pause, girl. Jeez Louise, she was hot out the gate. Okay. Now, mind you, I want to also say this is not me trying to say that this person is a bad person. this is the reason I use this as an example, because this is the type of accountability that I use that did serve me for a while. And it is like, it can be useful. The only thing is, like, you can't stay in it, but it can be useful. So I wanted to give an example of that.
Listen, let's stop this fucking now. Let's stop it now. There is no village. Let me tell you, young girls, what nobody's gonna tell you. You got fucking 3 kids at 24 years old. You're getting ready to struggle. You're getting ready to cry. You're getting ready to be depressed. You're getting ready to want to unalive yourself. Okay? You're so in love with the baby daddy and you keep laying on your fucking back. You're going to be alone. Your friends that all think your baby's cute, while they're out twerking something cute in a cute little pretty girl outfit arrangement, you're gonna be home with those fucking babies, drowning in postpartum, drowning in depression, drowning in your fucking mistakes and decisions. And all your friends, oh, I'm your friend. No, ain't no fucking friends, babe. That's just what they are. Your friends are not your baby dad. Nobody's gonna tell you. Your mother's not gonna tell you. Your father's not gonna tell you. You're gonna find out when you call them because you have a job interview and nobody can watch your fucking kid. And they're home. They're off that day. You're gonna find out when you're down to the change in the middle of your console to put gas in your car. That love ain't all that. Love takes hostages and will leave you and your kids in fucking poverty and turmoil. So buckle the fuck up. Because I'm going to tell you what nobody's telling you. Them fucking babies are yours. And that man ain't never going to fucking change. This shit is hard. And I have more than a lot of you bitches. And I'm struggling. You bitches with nobody will. Let me tell you what nobody will. Especially you young girls who keep laying on your fucking backs having all these babies thinking it's cute. I know what you're going through behind closed doors. I know you're crying yourself the fuck. I know you're overstimulated and you're being a mean fucking mom. I know what the fuck is going on. And their cute little dresses and their shirts. But baby, I got 2. One's with my ex-husband from a very formal relationship, okay? By the book. And the other is from a narcissist that I got with after.
So I'm seeing the comments, and some people are saying like, "Oh, that's not, yeah, her voice is hard, right?" When I tell you, I've spoken before about like how when I originally sat down to write my book, the tone was off. That was the tone. That was the tone. But that was the tone that I had lived in for, it was like 2015 to like 2018 or so. I had lived in for a few years. Like I had actually, I had a whiteboard in my room, a big whiteboard that I would just like put different things on. And I remember I wrote at the top of it, "Nobody's coming to save you." And the energy that she was bringing in, that's what that meant to me, that nobody is coming to save you. That was the energy I was in. And like I said, it fed me and it sustained me, and it kept me up and it kept me going, and it helped me to like break that to kind of detox off of the things that I had been self-medicating with in terms of men and relationships and this and that and the other. And so that's why I'm saying, like, that's why I highlighted that, because I do feel like it can be, and I feel the love, and I know the love and the concern and the like wanting to help and wanting to call people higher and wanting to, like they said, Hov did that. So hopefully you don't have to go through that. That's where that frustration comes from of like, why are y'all doing this? You don't have to do this. I know you see other people going through this. I know you saw me going through, you know what I mean? He's not worth it. They're never worth it. You get what I'm saying? And so that's why I'm like, there can be value in it. But what happens is that people get feedback from it, and they'll have like there's people here that are saying like, oh yeah, that's true, da, 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 da. But what you'll have is a rotating um a rotating door of people coming in and out that are affirming that. But you don't know who all those people are. When you have a platform, I'm talking about, you don't know who all those people are. And some of them people need someone to go, okay, now that we've addressed that, what's the plan? They need a plan to move forward. But all you're doing is talking that at them, right? All you're doing is giving them that same energy over and over and over. That becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because if you don't, we had this conversation before, if you don't feel like you're worthy, if you don't feel like you're smart, if you don't feel like, that's how people wind up in, like she said, she was in a formal relationship. So I'm assuming she means the marriage and everything like that. And it didn't work out. And somehow she said she wound up with a narcissist or with somebody who was worse, who she didn't even get those formal securities from. How you think she got there? She seems like a smart woman. She seems like someone who values herself. You get what I'm saying? So how did you get there? By being that hard. You get there by being that closed off. You get there by isolating yourself. Because eventually something that is rigid is going to break. When you isolate yourself in that way, when you stay in that kind of energy, there is also a hubris that comes with that, when you think, well, I'm untouchable because I know this and that. I'm not naive. Like I said, people like to weaponize naive, aka innocence. People like to weaponize that and think it makes them stronger because they're quote unquote not naive. No, you're just jaded and you're bitter, but that still doesn't mean that you're not being driven by those same things that you never really took the time to dig out and examine and reframe and reshape. So people think because they're being hard and they're growling at you and they're threatening you and this and that and the other, you're still messing with these people that only came to exploit you. Oh well, I'm not I'm not taking them seriously. I'm just having sex. I'm just having fun. But yet and somehow you still wind up feeling a type of way. You're still winding up stressed out. You're still winding out depleted. How that work? It says being transparent is helpful, but someone stuck in a delusion doesn't snap out of it by way of a video. Right. There's more to exactly. There's more to it. But people will latch on to the idea of being seen because she's saying things that are true and she knows she's speaking from experience. So people will latch on to stuff that's being that feeling of being seen, and they'll stay in that energy. But like I said, they need something more to help them move beyond that reality. That's where Level Up Single Mom comes in. That's why, because again, I was that woman who knew that I needed to make a change, who knew that I was kind of the architect of my own suffering, and who was looking for validation, looking for camaraderie, looking for, a way out, the next best step. And I was finding people talking about my situation, talking about, experiences I'm going through, talking about how the men are using and abusing and victimizing me. But nobody's talking about what it looks like to be healed. Nobody's talking about what the goals are in healing. They're just talking about the offense. They're just talking about the pain. They're just talking about the experience. Tyler Perry. So for me, I feel like it's more about mindfulness and less about mastery, because one of the ways, the things that stands out to me about, like I said, those other platforms that I've been talking about and alluding to and stuff like that, is there's this air, and it's not just any one particular, like it's all across the diaspora of Black women content that's supposed to be about coming into new awareness and quote unquote leveling up and decenter menness and blah blah blah, that, whatever. But what I'm noticing is that what they're selling is this idea that you can master it, even though they're not giving you steps. They're not giving you steps that aren't just by my book, even though I do have a book or whatever, but they're not giving you steps outside of, like, in terms of like helping you to frame what your life should look like, helping you to create a vision for what it is you want in your life. Because the thing is, you may not, people that come through here, not everybody that comes through Level Up Single Mom needs my book. My book is about a very niche experience. My book is about like breaking free of the idea that you and your baby father are supposed to be together if you are suffering because of that belief. That's what my book is about. Now, have people who do not have kids, who may not have ever been married, this and that and the other, come to me and said, I got value in your book? Absolutely. But that's still, I'm not going to sit here and try to say, oh, yeah, you need to be my book. Everybody needs to have my book, because you may not. However, you can still come. This platform is set up in a way where you should still be able to come and look at different videos and stuff like that. You may get something else that you need, right? But the way other people set up their thing is like, my ideology, my being them, my ideology is rigid. It's this or that. It's this. And you need to do this. And you say, oh, well, what about this nuance? No, it's this. And they just keep barking those same things at you. I know like one particular one, it's like, oh, you need to change your sexuality. You need to just stop being whatever you are sexually right now. You need to stop being of the orientation that has led to your experience right now. You need to be a different orientation that you probably aren't. Or then you have other ones that are just like, oh yeah, these people are the bane of your existence. They're your biggest predator. They are out to kill you. So the answer is to just play with them instead of staying completely away from them. It says, living your life following what you've been told, having a child the quote unquote right way is getting married, ending up and still a single mother would send me. Lord, I can't. Right. And it happens every single day. Every single day it happens. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's no blueprint. There's no cheat code. The next step is stop depending on the love of others so you can start creating solace. Hey, Mary, it's a clock that someone got mad at me for bringing that. For me, it's more about mindfulness and less about mastery. This idea, there's an undertone to most popular platforms, especially in the niche that I think I'm a part of, that there's a definitive way to win, quote unquote. When the truth is, there's no winning, at least not in the permanent sense, because relationships are fluid, and so they're subject to change. So you're going to have to learn how to adapt continuously. And that requires a level of presence that these mindsets don't leave any room for. You have to be open to being wrong, to having made a mistake or a misstep, because you can't correct a mistake you don't believe yourself capable of making. Like, these mindsets will have you thinking, oh yeah, I'm this, I'm that. Can't nobody play me because I got it on lock because I do it like this. You know what I mean? It's just like, that's just not how life works. It says, so they want us to identify as asexual sticks to avoid the problem. No, that's the thing. Honestly, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm the person, I feel like the fast track to it is to kind of become a little asexual. I'm gonna be honest with you, but I recognize that that's not realistic for people. But what I'm saying is, people are like, oh, well, still engage sexually, just engage with people that you're not sexually attracted to, and or keep engaging with these people that you see as damn near animals and dangerous. But because you're not falling in love with them, you're still protected. No, they can kill me. If I'm looking at them in the way that you're telling me that they want to do to me, it does not make sense. Make it and open myself up literally and figuratively to. It says that's because the nuclear family is a societal construct. There's nothing wrong with being a single mom. Yeah. And that make you asexual. No, asexual. I'm, I'm, I'm joking, but I'm just like, for me, a big part of, sorry, y'all. Can y'all hear me? Now every single kid in the neighborhood want to come and walk past here. Um, oh my God! I thought they would be passed by now. Hold on, y'all. It's not good when they in outside my house being all loud. When I tell you, I've been home for a couple days now. It was not all this happening, and now today, every emergency is happening. So all the sirens got to be going. Every kid is outside and in front of my house. Like it's pissing me off. It's pissing me off. Um, but what was I saying? Oh, they try to make you believe that like you can do anything, that you have this ideology that is like it's the same as like them red pill people. Oh yeah, don't date single mothers and don't do this and don't date a woman who has a life of her own and beliefs of her own and interests of her own that's not desperate for your attention, that you can't manipulate, basically. You know what I mean? It's the same thing in reverse. It's this idea that's really isolating but yet still demands the interaction of other people to be viable. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't make any sense. So I wanted to kind of illustrate that in a particular type of way with this thing. So I don't know who of y'all used to watch Love and Hip Hop Atlanta and the storyline with K Michelle. And when K Michelle revealed that she had been, stop, I said, I don't want it right now. When K Michelle had revealed that she had been in a relationship with the guy who was married at the time to Lil Wayne's ex, his daughter Regine's mom, when she revealed that he had been abusive to her. And dumbass Rashida was talking all that mess, in the name of marriage, in the name of the institution of marriage. And also Toya, which was Lil Wayne's ex-wife, was defending her man, which I don't necessarily fault her for defending her man, defending her relationship. But there's an aspect of it that, we'll get into. I'm just going to show you a couple clips. So basically, I got to give you the backstory. Like I said, K Michelle, not even just K Michelle, because it was all them, not only people that was on the show, but the social circle. So at the time, K Michelle and Rashida were on Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. In the background, outside of the show, I believe it was Rashida and Kirk and his 2 earrings, or his 3 earrings. It was Toya and Memphis. That's the couple, Toya is Lil Wayne's ex-wife and her husband at that time, who's a producer, like a famous producer. So that's how him and K Michelle had met and had been in a relationship. And then it was, I believe, Tamar was involved in it somehow. She was a part of that friend group or whatever. But point is that K Michelle revealed on the show that at one point when she had been romantically involved with Memphis, he had been abusive to her. And Rashida basically sat in her face and was like, that didn't happen because she's on the side of team married and her friend Toya is married to him, and nobody ever wants to believe that they could pick a bad man, because that's part of that rhetoric that says, oh, you only deserve good things and marriage and to be chosen and this and that and the other if you are the proper type of woman. And part of being the proper type of woman is being immune to abuse because you picked the right man. So if you are ever abused, it's not because that man is trash and needs to be punished. It's because you were not the right type of woman. And so being that they've subscribed to that, even though she continuously gets abused and disrespected or whatever, but whatever, they scapegoated K Michelle as the single, unattached, unworthy problem. And so lo and behold, eventually Memphis and Toya started having marital problems and they wound up on the show Marriage Boot Camp. And so this is the moment, according to Toya, when Memphis kind of showed something that she said she never saw before. So I'm going to go ahead and share this. But this is important because this is a turning point in showing more of what K Michelle had been saying that nobody had ever seen about this man behind closed doors. So hold on.
If she gave you all the porno sex you want, you still would go do what you want to do. So why do you ask her to do these things if you know it's not going to change who you are?
I have my idea of what living my life is, and nobody gets in the way of that.
So why you got married then, if you feel that way?
See, you missing the whole... Listen, I've been supporting her, everything she does for the last couple of years. I'm putting all my attention into her, and I'm losing who I am.
What do you want me to do?
Stay on your lane, stay in your lane, stay in your lane.
What does that mean?
That means stay in your lane and stay out of my business.
What type of answers I get? Break it down. What does stay in your lane mean?
Okay, so stop talking. You not gonna talking me too. I don't stop doing nothing. I do what the I want to do.
Calm down.
I ain't coming down.
Like
You don't tell me I'm gonna be okay. And you gonna bye. Out of here. This house.
He done went off on Toya in front of everybody, knocked the food off the table, got all in my face. Toya, you better than me, girl, because I'd have been like, cancel Christmas, cut the cameras. Are you trying to embarrass me?
I didn't know it was that long. I'm not trying to get get snatched off the air, child. I didn't know it was that. But yeah, that's what you see. So now I'm going to show another clip of her talking about it, because you would think after everything that had happened that she would be like, hold on. So to me it's a pretty clear cut understanding that, oh, he clearly is abusive. Like, for him to explode in that way and do that type of thing, like, that goes along the lines of what K Michelle was saying. Do you think K Michelle ever got an apology from any of the women involved? Because like I said, it was a group of women. This is where we're talking about bullying and being different and this and that and the other, because what she was talking about did not coincide with what they wanted to believe about marriage, and thusly themselves in being the perfect type of women because they were married. Because if any of their husbands were not good men worth having, then what did that say about them as women? Because they buy into, you get what I'm saying? So that made K Michelle the enemy of their entire ideology and thusly their identity. So hold on. This is what Toya had to say about that happening, and people, because this is why this is coming up again. People are bringing up since she I guess since she started talking about whatever she got going on recently, now people are bringing that back up like, hey, so K Michelle was actually right. What do you have to say? Do you have anything to say?
Whatever the internet's there, what people say.
When it came to your ex-husband Memphis,
Nobody probably would ever believe me, because you know that whatever the internet's there, what people say, it trumps what you say. But I have never had a aggressive, like, physical relationship with my ex. The show was the first time, and Listen, when you do reality TV, I don't even know why he did that dumb shit. But you know, when you do reality TV, people be looking for their moments at times. So that was some dumb shit that he done did for his moment, because we never had that type of relationship. I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
We never had a abusive relationship or aggressive relationship. Like, he wasn't that guy. Like, I really didn't know him to be the aggressive woman beating type of man. But hey, that's another day. I ain't with that man or nothing, but I don't have a reason to lie. That was never my experience. But what he did on that show, straight bullshit. I don't condone it. I didn't like it. I thought it was very immature, very childish, and it just made all of the other things that people say about you to be true. So I think that was one of those moments for him where he just felt like he had to do something because he was losing everything, and he just started acting stupid on TV. I don't know why. Would be the thing that saved him. Like, oh, you the star of this show. No, fool. You looking stupid because everything that people are like, for what? Then he go back to normal. Like, shit, that's that TV shit. Like, no, that's not that TV shit. I don't even play them kind of games, first of all. Like, this ain't the type of TV shit I want to sign up for. What you see on every show I done did is real life. You know what I'm saying? So that was like a dumb, stupid moment. But anyway, I don't know what his relationship or what he went through with other people. I can't never speak on that. I don't know how it was, but I can speak for me. Like, that's all I can speak for is me. I have never, on my current relationship, never was abused or an aggressive relationship with no man.
When it came to your ex-husband,
So I wanted to show that because I actually into the idea of like me again holding myself accountable, and I guess this is kind of a way of me like explaining myself in a way I feel this calls for, while also talking about safe spaces and like giving examples of when a space might not be safe and this and that and the other. So for me specifically, I believe her when she says she hasn't had those experiences. I do feel like there is a disconnect there for her in terms of being able to relate, because there are some things where it's just like, okay, I can't relate to that. You know what I mean? And there are some things that even now that I can honestly say I might have experienced that now in the space that I'm in now, I cannot relate to because I won't be going back, right? But there are also things that some people haven't experienced. I believe her when she says she hasn't experienced it. And the reason I believe her when she says she hasn't experienced it, because you got to remember, her and Lil Wayne were married as teenagers, I believe. Like, they had their baby as teenagers, they had Reginae as teenagers, and then they got married. So that was I assume they first real relationship between the both of them. And being that Lil Wayne became who he was like right around that time or whatever, I'm pretty sure that she's been protected in a very particular kind of way where people knew if they was going to deal with her, if they was going to step to her. And I believe she has brothers and stuff, you know, whatever too. But I'm saying like she was someone who was very protected, and she was someone who had, I feel like, that level of protection and that level of proximity to those types of people and men, and access to that amount of money, let's be honest, notability. It just gave her a certain level that I don't begrudge her. This is not me trying to downplay her or say anything is wrong with that, but this is just me saying she was privileged enough to have been safe in a particular kind of way that she was not susceptible to that. Now, you may say, oh, well, clearly Memphis was an abuser, or it would appear that Memphis was an abuser based off of, you know, K. Michelle saying what she said, and then, you know, the way he was acting or whatever. Why didn't that happen? So I have a story about being in a position where I was with someone who I didn't find out till later was an abuser, you know, both before and after me. And so when I was with my oldest daughter's father, like I've said before, we had a very contentious relationship, and I always felt like there was like a power play there. And I was acutely aware of, I felt like him being frustrated and kind of writing me off because he could not isolate me. He could not isolate me. Now, the reason he could not isolate me, it was not because I felt like I was Miss Goodpuss. It was because I have a relationship with my parent. Like, I have a relationship with my family where, you know, no family is perfect, but I've always said I felt privileged in being safe in a particular kind of way that I see a lot of people are not, like psychologically and physically safe within environments where they were supposed to be able to be safe. So within their own households, they were not safe. Within their own families, they were not safe. I was never physically abused in both the traditional sense and the sexual sense. Um, I had a lot of affection. You know what I mean? I had a lot of free time to play. Like I wasn't adultified in any way. Some people say I was spoiled and I was allowed to be a child longer than I should have been or whatever. But I I recognize though that that is not the experience of a lot of people. And so when I go into spaces and I'm having conversations, I can hold space for, gratitude for the experience that I had, but also empathy and or sympathy for people. And the difference between empathy and sympathy, I feel like, is like if you've ever seen that picture, let me see, can I share that picture? Um, Hold on, I'm looking for the picture. I got too many pictures in here. I need to get rid of me sending daggone screenshots to the me sending screenshots to the what's that called? The Discord on my computer. I can't find it, but there's a picture I have of a lady standing on the mouth of an abyss. And for me, I liken it sometimes when we're talking about these paradigm shifts of having people recognize the ways that they aren't serving themselves, recognize the ways they're being preyed upon or victimized or whatever. To me, that's the same as someone standing at the edge of an abyss, and you're basically asking them to do the equivalent of jumping into that abyss. That's scary, that's hard. And so for me, the difference between sympathy and empathy is, sympathy is I can stand there with you and while you have that experience and go through what you're going through and just be there for you and hold space for you. Empathy is I can put myself in your shoes and experience it myself, what you're experiencing from that vantage point, right? So what I'm saying is that when it comes to this idea of like someone coming to me and saying that this person that I love or whatever has victimized them, it's a shame that people just automatically jump to that space of, oh, he could have never done that. It is possible that people show up differently for different people. And I know that to be true, and I'm going to tell you why. She said, because that's the logical extreme. I'm going to tell you why. She said, I love um, hearing stories of Black women who had idyllic childhoods. I mean, it's a toss up because in a lot of ways, yes, I did have a lot of idyllic things. Like I used to get to spend summers at my middle class cousin's house and stuff. There are a lot of things that I look back and I say I was privileged. You know what I mean? And I thank God for that, because that's why I have the mindset that I have now. That's why I am able to calibrate to experiences that are beyond what I was experiencing at that time. That's why, and I understand why it's harder for some people, because they did not have those experiences to be able to have a solid footing in what it feels like to be in a quote unquote better position. She said by the time came Michelle that said that they were already married. Yeah. She said if that side of him only came out on camera, the best case scenario for her. She said, have you seen how Lil Wayne asked you telling me he was an angel during the man? I don't know, but I'm saying, like, if she says that she never experienced it, I'm going to go with what she said. Oh, good. I didn't know what your question was. I missed it. Yeah, I wish you would have apologized. Thema Shoe's still here. Oh, hi. Let me see. She said the whole spoiled trope has become so sinister to me since learning more about how we got here. Listen. Okay, so let me go back to what I was saying. So what I'm saying is, when I was dealing with my oldest daughter's father, like I said, he would antagonize me and he would like talk down to me, and he would like take whatever leverage he could get on me in terms of like trying to make me feel bad or knock me off my square. A lot of the leeway he got with me was just from me being inexperienced with manipulative people or openly manipulative people. Um, so what I mean by that is that when he would be doing something that was manipulative, I would automatically, like if he said, "Oh, you did this wrong," I would automatically go, "Oh, I didn't mean to. I'm sorry," and I would try to fix and change it. So what that wound up looking like was me constantly moving, even if it was incrementally, inches and inches and inches beyond the boundary I set, because he had me thinking that the boundary that I had set was unreasonable, or I didn't even know it was a boundary. I was just like, oh, well, I would prefer this. Oh, well, I want this. Okay, I'm flexible, this type of thing. So he was able to get a lot of leeway, like I said, because I did not recognize what was happening as manipulation. But that being said, when it came to physical abuse, he never physically abused me. Were there times where things got tense? Yes. But I can remember in moments where it got tense, there was what I recognize now is he didn't know what would happen to him. He didn't know what would happen to him if he were to put his hands on me. Because I found out years and years and years later, he said, "What did you mean? I haven't left since." I said, "I didn't know," because other people, I mean, this is not, you can do what you want, but other people were like responding. I know people be in and out and stuff, so I didn't know. I found out years and years and years later that he had hit, his romantic partners both before me and after me, and some of his female family members. So I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, it was mental abuse. Like, I don't shy away from that at all. It was a lot of mental abuse. I think that did me, I won't say it did me worse than physical abuse would have, because that's still mental abuse as well. But it really messed me up because, again, the same way I didn't really understand women bullying, I also didn't understand manipulation and abuse in that way. So it took me a long time to be able to recognize it for what it was and then thusly heal from it. But I found out that he had, been physical with women both before and after me. And what I recognized when it made me go back to those times where, like I said, it got tense enough. I can say honestly that I felt him measuring. I felt him, I saw the gears turning in his head. And in those moments, I recognized a kind of fear from him, but it wasn't traditional fear and like, oh, I'm scared of her, get me away from her. It was more so of a fear of the unknown. He did not know what I was going to do. Like, for instance, there was a time when my baby was an infant and he had broke up with me. That was one of the first times he called himself breaking up with me and let me know that I wasn't good enough and did. So now we're quote unquote co-parenting. Okay. So he came to the house and he was like demanding either to take the baby somewhere or whatever like that. But she was too young in my mind. She was an infant. And I was like, you're not taking my baby anywhere. And he just kept talking and girl, you always remind me because I always forget. He was just talking real big stuff. And I was in the kitchen making a sandwich. And so I had a butter knife in my hand because I like mayonnaise on my sandwiches. And I was spreading the mayonnaise on my sandwich. And he said something to me. And so I turned from my sandwich and I started walking towards him. I had the butter knife in my hand. Now, what's funny is within my mind, within my body, I had forgotten I had the knife in my, like, there was no intention of using the knife. I was not trying to intimidate him. I was not trying to threaten him. It just so happened that what he said required me, in my mind, to get close to him, to let him know what I needed to let him know about what I thought about what he was saying. But I just so happened to have the butter knife in my hand, and it was such a knee-jerk response that I didn't put the knife there. Plus, it had mayonnaise on it. But I'm saying, like, I wasn't even thinking about the knife being in my hand. I just was walking towards him because he was playing in my face and he needed to know. And so to this day, because my family was there, it was in my house, they was like, you was about to stab that boy. I said, no, I was not. But it's funny because they think that and he thought that. And I saw him kind of looking, and it was like I mean, I guess you could say it was, but you get what I'm saying? So my point is, it was when the baby was an infant. And so I'm saying there are other instances where I could see him looking at me and perceiving. Remember, I was talking about seeing how other people perceive you? I could see him perceiving me in a way where he was like, he didn't know what I would do, or he thought that I would do something that I wasn't necessary. And I'm not saying I'm above it. I'm not saying I'm above it. But I'm saying that that was not my intention in that moment. And so for him, I saw him, like I said, calculating, and I'm guessing that he never came to the conclusion. The math wasn't mathing to the point where he felt like that was something that he could do and get away with it. And but I want to be clear, it's not because I think that, oh, I'm Miss Goodpuss. There's also the aspect of the isolation. He wasn't able to isolate me. He was never able to isolate me in the way he wanted to. That's why, even though he would break down my self-esteem and this and like that, there would always come a point where I'd be like, wait a minute, why the heck am I putting up with this? And I would walk away from him. So he never had a chance to fully break me down the way he was able to do other people. Also, because, please with these knives, also because I was still close with my family, he did not know what my family would do, which is what I assume people that are dealing with Toya were like, okay, I don't know what Lil Wayne, I know Lil Wayne got a lot of people, his money is long, his contact list is long. So I don't know what would happen to me if I were to touch her like that. I don't know what would happen. I could smack K Michelle around because ain't nobody gonna check me. But I don't know, and I suspect that there's plenty of people who would check me if I were to hit Toya. And that's what I'm thinking that he was also considering when dealing with me. It wasn't necessarily about, oh yeah, because I was just so respectable, or he knew not to play with me. He was scared of me in the traditional sense. He might have been a little scared of me, I might stab him because he knew he was fucking with me. But again, also, I feel like the biggest thing, and I've seen this with my friends too, like situations where they were with people who were known to abuse people in that way. And I had a friend that she would deal with this person, and he would say every now and then, see, I be hitting women for stuff like that. And it's like, why are you saying that? Is that a threat? You get what I'm saying? And I told her at that time too, I'm like, the only reason he didn't hit you is because he didn't know what would happen to him. He could tell that you weren't the type of woman that was just going to cry and still mess with him. He didn't know if you was going to really cut off access to him, or B, cut off a piece of him. You get what I'm saying? So that's the only reason abusive men will not abuse women, out of fear. And my baby father basically told me that, like, I say within the last 3 years, we had one of the last conversations we had. He was saying something. He was like, "Oh, if your grandfather had threatened me, maybe I wouldn't have did this, that, or the other." And I said, "That's stupid. That's such a stupid thing to say. And you think that makes you look like a better person? Like what?" But that's basically how they feel. That's why they're always talking about why they don't want to have women who have children, because they're not going to be the ones to be able to discipline the children. They're worried about having to answer to other people. That's why DDG is so mad about having to have supervised visits. They don't want to have to worry about what will happen to them if they just do whatever they feel like doing in a given moment because of how they're feeling. It says, yes, reactive abuse is automatic, and you don't judge yourself because you didn't consciously count the initial encounter as abuse. Yeah. That's what makes mental and emotional abuse worse. Yeah, because it makes you question your instincts. Like it took me a long time to rewire my my nervous system. And it's funny. A part of what led me to the realization that I was being abused was I used to be really, really good friends with his younger sister. And I remember I would talk to her, and I was talking to her one time about something he did, and she was like, you're showing signs of PTSD. And I was like, oh, you know what I mean? So I didn't think of it, because people used to treat me like I was weird. Like people would be like, "What's wrong with you?" When he would come around, and I would get jittery, and I would get like really on edge and anxious and nitpicky and this and that and the other, and it was because my nervous system was fucked. And it's little to small things. Like it would be this, he would touch me without my consent. You know what I mean? Like I'd be like, "Don't touch me." And he would just come in and sneak and touch me. Oh, my bad. I got to brush past you to get, you know what I mean? Like he would just always be testing and pushing my boundaries no matter what was, and it was big or small. And it took me a long time to realize that when it came to my boundaries, it wasn't the fact that he was even worried about what my boundaries actually were. It was the fact that wherever your boundary is, I want what's just beyond it. So I was never safe. I was never safe. It says, and in fairness, being free of consequences would be more fun for us too. I get the appeal, but no, you can't have that, sir. Not with me. Not on my time. It said the description of the emoji. Listen, this thing be getting on my nerves. Yes, it be getting on my nerves. So what I'm saying is that when it comes to this idea of accountability, because when we're talking about these types of abusive thing and that mindset, like I said, that Toya has and other women have, and truth be told, I feel like K Michelle kind of has that too, because we was watching Themis with K Michelle talking to Cam Newton, so she, oh my God, people are losing their minds out in these streets. She was exhibiting, pick me behavior as well, but what I'm saying is that like this idea of accountability, there is a thing where it's about recognizing that you did in fact make choices in a situation and then being willing to assess and accept whatever level of responsibility you actually have in the situation. But the problem is, like I said, people are always trying to weaponize accountability. And here on this platform, one of the tenets of this platform is that accountability is a tool and not a weapon. And so the way we use accountability here is, how can you be accountable in the present for how you feel about the past? What I mean by that is people will weaponize accountability and say, oh, well, because you did this thing in the past, now here in the present, you need to be experiencing pain that I can see to my level of satisfaction. And that's not how it works. That's not how it works. That's a way of trying to strip you of your dignity. The dignified way of being accountable and using it as a tool is saying, okay, in the past, I chose this person and this person did this thing to me and it made me feel this particular kind of way. So now in the present, I can try to figure out what it was about that person that made them, that I could pick out, that says, okay, this is the type of person that would do that type of thing to me. And I can try to move with more intentionality about the type of people I'm choosing to give access to me, right? That's one way you can be accountable in the present for how you feel about the past. Another way is to give yourself grace and say, oh, well, I didn't know. There was no way that I could have known that that person would do that to me. And so I'm not going to hold myself accountable for not knowing, because we never truly know sometimes until we know. And so the way I can be accountable in the present is to give myself permission to be wrong and hold myself to the standard that when I get some kind of information that lets me know that I was wrong, that I don't just shut it out like Toya did and say, oh, that's impossible because I didn't experience it. That even if I don't want to stop dealing with that person, I can just put a pin in that and put it in my mental Rolodex and refer to it later, so that when I see that behavior coming up, I can go, oh, wait a minute, this person told me about that. I'm going to go ahead and head on out. That's how you be accountable. It's not about punishment. It's not about, feeling shamed. And these are types of, I got to plug the book too. These are types of things that I talk about in my very niche book about getting over your child's father. It's called Level Up, The Single Mother's Guide to Reclaiming Her Dignity. It's available in both paperback and ebook forms. So there is the plug for that. So we are coming up. Refusal to take accountability is a defense against guilt, shame, and blame. That's what refusal to take accountability is. But like I said, a refusal to take accountability is not you acquiescing to people who are trying to weaponize accountability to control you. That's not what it is. But refusal to take accountability, like I said, in the example of like Toya, is like you refuse to be accountable for the fact that you victimized and shamed that woman that was trying to warn you, right? Now, thank God she wasn't invested enough in him to still stay with him and ignore what he did in her face. She did seem to, listen to that pretty soon after and get away from him. But I'm just saying, like, that's what it looks like when people refuse to take accountability in situations where they're seeing somebody showing up in a way, somebody trying to warn them, and they vilify that person and then dig their heels in about not coming up off that person that victimized the other person and now them. Um, it's a kind of armor, and we only wear armor where we know we're going to be attacked at some point, and that ties back into this idea of this being a safe space. That's why I always say this is a place you can take off your armor. I'm not going to, like, we're going to talk about these things the same way we're talking about these things today. We will talk about these things here, and I'll be real with you. And I'm gonna give you the real, like the lady was. And sometimes I may even get impassioned, like the lady did, the one that was like, "Ain't nobody coming to save you." I'll get impassioned. I have that in me. But my work again is to keep showing up so that y'all can understand it. If and when I say something like that, that I'm not saying it to try to uplift myself by standing on your head. That I'm not trying to kick you while you're down for the entertainment of others, and that I'm also not going to try to victimize myself using you or anyone else, for favor. And I'm also not going to try to appeal to you, for pity, so that you'll give me stuff and attention or whatever out of pity. Um, it's not just about taking responsibility though. It's about taking ownership. So it's about taking ownership of your choices. It's about taking ownership of the options you have. Hey, golden lady, welcome. It's about taking ownership of the options you have, right? And so that it says, yep, there's a first time for everything. Calibrate your picker for next time. Exactly. Calibrate your picker for next time. So with that being said, that's all of the notes that I have. I'm going to go ahead and put the link out here if anyone wants to come up and, chit and chat about what we were talking about. But those are my notes. Let me see. It says, I'm often the Cassandra warning people of what's about to happen. They never come back and apologize when the inevitable happens, but they read you for filth before. That is true. That is true. That's why I said, like, sometimes when I talk about, like, not having the capacity, I think it's possible. It gets to a point, right? And for me, what I've learned is to not be so invested in warning people, because now I've learned to just kind of sit back. So people come to me and will say, "Hey, you're not talking. Will you please talk? Will you please tell me what you see or whatever?" Because now it's like I've trained people to know that, number one, I be picking up on some things. So you might want to listen to me if I do have something to say. And I'm not going to try to come to you with unsolicited information or advice. So you're going to have to ask me, because either you're going to listen to me or you're not. But I'm not pressed for you to listen to me, especially because this ain't my problem. One of the things that has helped me, I think, maybe like within the last 4 years, is I started getting in the habit of saying, well, I ain't got it all figured out either, so I could be wrong. You know what I mean? That's what I tell myself when I'm seeing something, when I'm feeling like something is going to happen. I just be like, I could be wrong. I'm Sway. I don't have all the answers, right? And so that kind of helps me to back off from feeling like, because a lot of people get entitled, and there is this arrogance that comes with people feeling like, oh, well, I said it and I told you and I knew and you didn't did it. And it's like, okay, now you're getting into your ego, because what, you want a cookie? Like, what do you, for real, what do you want in this? It didn't work out. I'm hurting right now. If you're really my friend, if you really care about me, is this the best use of your time right now? Right? So yeah. So I don't see anybody coming. Oh, I meant to take this off. Sorry. I don't see anybody coming up. So I guess that means we are done. I want to thank you all for coming and listening. I absolutely enjoyed the conversation. First of y'all funny as hell, and I also appreciate your attention. I appreciate you staying too for the whole thing. Like I see, it's 28 people in here. At one point, it was like 40 people in here. So that's amazing. She said, I'm a tourist. I'm always right. That's so funny. Yeah, they do. That's something else too. And that's why, like, when I talk about being aware, because I think a lot of times people are so caught up in their own heads and in their own experience that they don't really pay attention. They're so worried about getting some kind of recognition or being the savior that they're not paying attention to the fact that they are opening themselves up to abuse from people. Because after a while, you'll realize this person don't want to hear. And that's why I said I changed. Thank you, Themis. That's why I said I changed my perspective about quote unquote giving advice or insight, because it's like you may not want it. And if you not want it, I'm not gonna sit here and open it up door up for you to disrespect me, especially if I know you gonna choose that other person anyway. So go ahead. What Beyonce say, stay in your struggle. Go ahead. Enjoy. So yeah. Thank you, Tori. Oh, but I was thanking you guys for staying because the more watch times you give me, the more I'll go into the algorithm and stuff. So I really appreciate you. I appreciate in this attention economy you giving me social currency. So because we all valuable here, honey. We are all valuable here. So I'm gonna go ahead and find the out. Oh no, I didn't want to do that first. First, I want to go ahead and put the book back up. Just for anybody who's rewatching anything like that, there's the evergreen QR codes. So always gotta advertise. And also, if you want to, as Wake Up Makeup Slay said, if you want to buy me a coffee, if you want to just donate to the channel, whatever, you can whatever you would have put towards super chats or whatever, you could put towards the cash app. And thank you, MJ. Thank you, Mary, Tori, Channel, Demus, Summer, QB, Golden Lady, Yolanda, uh, Coco, Wake Up Makeup Slay, Jigglypuff. Who else? I said Channel. Oh, Bliss, Duffy girl, you had me cracking up all night. Either B, also Lawana Dean. I saw you come through. Really appreciate you. I'm not going to scroll up this whole thing. I hope I got everybody that I saw was interacting. So I'm going to go ahead and add this outro, baby, and then I'm going to go and find me something to eat.